Tell me that isn't your CEO. I stopped halfway down the front steps of Juniper Court with a cardboard box in my arms. Adriana Vega stood beside our property manager in the middle of the courtyard. She was wearing a navy raincoat over office clothes, completely inappropriate shoes for wet concrete, and the expression she normally used when a supplier had missed a deadline by 6 minutes. Mrs. Landry from 2A was watching her from behind a curtain. Theo, the bartender in 3C, had actually come outside in slippers. I set the box down. Adriana? Her attention locked onto me immediately. Matt, what are you doing at my apartment? I own it. I laughed because there was no reasonable response to that sentence. Adriana didn't. I looked at our property manager, Dale. He gave me an uncomfortable smile. Juniper Court closed this morning. New ownership took possession at 9. I turned back to her. You bought my building? Yes. The whole building? Buying only your apartment wasn't an available option. 22 units. Underground parking. A corner lot in Seattle less than 15 minutes from downtown. I knew roughly what the place was worth. My brain supplied a number large enough to make me angry. 5 days earlier, I had been eating takeout with 2 coworkers after a late installation review when one of them asked whether I planned to renew my lease. I had shrugged. Probably not. If the lease ends in September, I might as well leave Seattle. Adriana had been walking past. She stopped. That was all. No dramatic conversation. She asked, "Where do you live again?" I told her. Then she went back to being the CEO of Gridwell Systems and terrifying people over energy efficiency forecasts. Apparently she had spent the next 5 days buying my address. What exactly did you think would happen here? I asked. Adriana glanced at the box beside my feet. You would stop packing. This has books in it. You pack them. I was reorganizing. Then stop reorganizing. Theo coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. I lowered my voice. You cannot buy an apartment building because I said I might move. Clearly I can. That wasn't permission. Something tightened in her expression. I didn't need your permission to purchase real estate. No. But if you're claiming you bought it for me, then you absolutely needed to consider whether I wanted you to. Before she could answer, the courtyard door opened. 3 more tenants came out. A woman I knew from the 4th floor held up an email on her phone. Are our leases changing? Another tenant asked, are you turning this into corporate housing? Someone else wanted to know whether rents were going up. Adriana shifted instantly into CEO mode. No one is being removed. No rent changes are being made today. Today? Theo repeated. Bad word. Adriana knew it too. The questions got louder. I watched her absorb them. At Gridwell, Adriana could shut down a room with one raised eyebrow. Here, nobody cared that she ran a 700-person building automation company. They cared whether their kids would still have the same bedroom in 3 months. She looked at me. That was the moment her private gesture became everybody else's problem. I stepped forward. Guys, give us an hour. Nobody has been told they're losing a lease. Let's not invent things before we know them. Mrs. Landry opened her window. Matthew, did you know about this? No. That answer mattered. Everyone heard it. I picked up my box, then pointed toward the old basement laundry room. Adriana. Downstairs. She followed me without arguing. The laundry room smelled like detergent and hot metal. 2 washers were running. I put the box on a folding table. You scared 21 households. I prevented 22 households from being sold to Beacon Residential. That stopped me. Beacon had converted 3 older buildings on our side of the city into luxury furnished rentals. They were buying Juniper? Offer accepted last month. Their inspection period ended Friday. How do you know? Gridwell supplied automation pricing for one of their other buildings. Their acquisitions director mentioned this property. And you just happened to buy it? I made the owner a better offer. To keep me in Seattle. Yes. She said it without embarrassment. That was Adriana's problem. She could be terrifyingly honest about the wrong thing. I rubbed the back of my neck. So you stopped Beacon? Yes. That's good. I know. But you still bought an entire building because you heard one sentence about me leaving. Her eyes narrowed. You were leaving. I said I might. You had already requested information about transferring your retirement account. I stared at her. How do you know that? Finance flagged the inquiry because you asked whether your benefits could follow you out of state. That is not CEO information. It appeared in a retention risk report. Then your retention risk report needs fewer personal details. A washer switched into spin cycle behind us. Adriana folded her arms. You never told me you were planning to leave. You never asked. I asked 5 days ago. You asked my address. Because you said the lease was the reason. It wasn't. That finally moved her. Not much. Adriana Vega didn't visibly react to much. But her arms lowered. What do you mean? I took my phone from my pocket, opened the email I had received 3 weeks earlier, then handed it to her. Rose City Housing Collaborative Retrofit Fellowship Acceptance. Portland, Oregon. 12 months. Hands-on work converting older apartment buildings for wheelchair access, safer aging in place, and low-cost energy upgrades. The kind of work I had wanted to do since before I joined Gridwell. I accepted it last Tuesday, I said. Adriana read the email. Once. Then again. I leave October 4th. Her voice was quieter. You were going anyway. Yes. The building purchase had solved the problem she thought she had. My apartment was safe. My neighbors were probably safer than they had been yesterday. And none of it changed the fact that in 5 weeks, I was moving 200 miles south. Adriana handed my phone back. What would make you stay? Nothing you can buy. That was the first time I saw fear break through her perfect control. And it was only day 1. By 9 the next morning, Juniper Court had a tenant meeting scheduled in the courtyard. Adriana wanted to send a property management representative. I told her that was a terrible idea. They're afraid of you. I have not threatened anyone. You bought their homes without ever meeting them. I bought a building. That sentence is exactly why you need to come. She hated that. I could tell because she started reorganizing the pens on my desk. Adriana had 3 stress habits. She aligned objects with edges. She read every legal document from the last page backward because she claimed the ugly terms were always near the end. And whenever someone mentioned moving, leaving, transferring, or temporary, she became noticeably more difficult. I had noticed the 3rd habit years ago. I had never understood it. 7 tonight, I said. Courtyard. I have a dinner with investors. Then go to dinner. Her eyes lifted. You want me there. I want the owner there. There's a difference. She considered that. Then moved the blue pen half an inch so it lined up with my keyboard. I'll reschedule. That was not me asking you to cancel something. I know. At 7, she arrived carrying 22 envelopes. No assistants. No lawyer. Just envelopes. Mrs. Landry immediately asked, Are those eviction notices? Adriana's mouth tightened. No. She handed one to each tenant. New 12-month lease offers. Same rent. Same deposits. Same pet terms. No renovation displacement. Beacon's plan to clear the building was dead. The courtyard changed instantly. Not into celebration. Suspicion first. People read every page. Theo looked at me. Is yours the same? I opened mine. Same rent increase as everyone else, 3%. No discount. No free parking. No secret CEO boyfriend package. I was relieved. Adriana noticed. Her face told me she was not pleased by how relieved I looked. A nurse from 4B raised her hand. What happens after 12 months? Adriana answered, I don't know yet. That surprised everyone. Especially me. Adriana hated saying she didn't know. I purchased this property in less time than I would normally spend reviewing a vendor contract, she continued. That was reckless. I almost smiled. She looked at me. I have been informed of that repeatedly. Theo laughed. Some of the tension broke. Then Mrs. Landry asked the question I knew was coming. Why did you buy it? Adriana could have lied. Investment. Location. Historic building. Potential retrofit. Anything. Instead, she pointed at me. Because Matt said he was leaving Seattle when his lease ended. Every head in the courtyard turned. I closed my eyes. Theo whispered, Man. Adriana kept going. I incorrectly concluded that preserving his lease would preserve his address. Adriana. What? Stop helping. I am explaining. You're making it worse. Mrs. Landry looked delighted. At 71, she had found the only possible outcome more interesting than losing her apartment. You bought Juniper Court for Matthew? Adriana's answer was immediate. Yes. 22 leases suddenly became secondary entertainment. I stepped in. She also stopped Beacon from converting the place. Adriana looked annoyed that I had diluted the romance. But, I added, I did not ask her to do this. That part mattered more. I told everyone about Portland. Not every detail. Just that I had accepted a 1-year housing retrofit fellowship before the sale. My move had nothing to do with being forced out. The mood shifted again. Now the story wasn't CEO buys building and saves boyfriend. It was CEO buys building for a man who was leaving anyway. Adriana sat through 30 more minutes of questions. She took notes by hand. When someone asked for a new intercom, she wrote it down. When Mrs. Landry complained that the backstairs became slick in rain, she wrote that down too. When Theo suggested turning the dead patch of grass near the alley into bicycle storage, Adriana asked him how many bikes. That was her strongest professional trait. Once she stopped believing she already had the answer, she listened hard. After everyone left, I found her beside the courtyard gate. You did okay. I publicly admitted to making a multi-million-dollar emotional purchase. You could have left that part out. You would have known. So, I dislike telling stories you can correct. I leaned against the brick wall. You still think I should stay? Yes. I'm going to Portland. I know. You keep saying that like you plan to defeat geography. Seattle and Portland are not different planets. That sounds like a warning. She ignored it. Why the fellowship? There it was. A real question. Not how could she keep me. Why did I want to go? My dad started using a wheelchair after a construction accident when I was 16. Adriana knew that much. He hated our house afterward. Not because of the chair. Because every doorway became somebody else's decision. My mom chose where the ramps went. Contractors decided what he could reach. Insurance decided which bathroom counted as necessary. I looked toward Juniper's narrow entrance. I joined Gridwell because smart building systems can make spaces easier to live in. But I spend most of my time designing controls for new offices and expensive apartments. You're good at it. I know. You don't like it. I like it. That isn't the same as wanting to do it forever. The fellowship would put me inside buildings like Juniper. Old. Messy. Full of people who couldn't just move when stairs became difficult. Adriana listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, I could create that role here. No. The answer came fast. She stiffened. I could. I know. That's why the answer is no. Why? Because I need to know I can earn the next thing without you building it around me. That hurt her. I saw it. Good. Not because I wanted her hurt. Because she needed the boundary to be real. I won't stay for a job you invent, I said. I won't stay for cheap rent. I won't stay because you bought my neighbor's building. Her voice cooled. What would you stay for? I already told you. Nothing I can buy. Right. Adriana looked up at Juniper Court. 22 illuminated windows. 22 households she now technically owned the walls around. She took a breath. Then I need to stop trying to purchase the answer. That was promising. Then she added, I still hate Portland. Have you been there? Twice. What happened? It rained. I stared at her. We live in Seattle. Seattle rain has better judgment. I laughed. She didn't. That was the first evening I understood something important. Adriana could joke about buying a building. She could not joke about me leaving. Adriana appointed an independent manager for Juniper Court 3 days later. That surprised me. She had personally bought the place, but she removed herself from day-to-day lease decisions. Not because a lawyer told her to. Because I had asked whether Mrs. Landry should have to worry that annoying the landlord might somehow become annoying my CEO. Adriana didn't like the implication. She liked the solution even less. She did it anyway. Then something stranger happened. She started showing up at Juniper on Saturdays. Not to see me. At least that was what she claimed. The first Saturday, she met with an electrician about hallway lighting. The second, she spent 40 minutes measuring the back entrance with a laser tape. I caught her crouching beside the threshold. What are you doing? Your ramp slope is bad. We don't have a ramp. Exactly. She wrote down a measurement. Mrs. Landry uses a cane. There's another tenant with a knee brace. The front entrance has 7 steps. You're adding accessibility upgrades? I'm evaluating. You know I designed those. Yes. You could ask me. You told me not to build your fellowship here. That isn't what I said. It was close. I took the laser measure from her. Move. Adriana moved. Together we spent an hour measuring the entrance, laundry room turn radius, elevator doors, and mailboxes. She disagreed with half my recommendations. I disagreed with her obsession over automated door hardware. It was the most normal we had felt since the building purchase. Then we reached the 4th floor. Adriana stopped outside 4C. The unit was empty. The previous tenant had moved out before the sale. You okay? Yes. She kept walking. Too fast. I followed. What was that? Nothing. You just examined 21 doorframes like a building inspector and skipped that one. No one lives there. That hasn't stopped you from inspecting anything else. She pressed the elevator button. Matt. Adriana. The doors opened. She stepped inside. I blocked them. What is 4C? Her face shut down. Move. That tone worked on vice presidents. I stayed where I was. You bought my building. You know the exact slope of the laundry room floor. You can answer one question. Not that one. The doors tried to close against my shoulder. I stepped back. Fine. She entered. Then, just before the doors closed, I saw her align her shoes with the seam in the elevator floor. Perfectly straight. Stress habit. Whatever 4C meant, it mattered. I didn't chase her. That afternoon, I called the Rose City Fellowship coordinator and confirmed my start date. October 4th. 5 weeks became 4. I also told Gridwell I would not be available remotely during the fellowship except for a 2-week transition. That was my second active choice. I could have kept one foot in Seattle. I chose not to. Adriana received the formal notice Monday. She arrived at my workstation at 8:07. You rejected remote consulting. Yes. You didn't discuss it with me. It isn't a relationship decision. Her jaw tightened at the word relationship. We still didn't have one. There had been no date, no kiss, no agreement. Just a CEO who had bought my building and a man counting down to another city. I thought you might want the option, she said. I don't. Why? Because if I spend 12 months comparing every decision to what you would do, I didn't really leave. That was harder for her than my first no. She stood beside my desk long enough that 2 coworkers found urgent reasons to walk elsewhere. Finally she nodded. Okay. No argument. Then she placed a small paper bag beside my keyboard. What's this? Blueberry muffin. I looked inside. You hate blueberries. Yes. Why did you buy it? You like them. That was the first simple thing she did for me after spending millions of dollars. No property. No job. No strategy. A $3 muffin. I liked it more than the building. I'm still going. I know. You can stop saying that every time you're nice to me. I am reminding myself. That answer stayed with me. The following Saturday, Juniper's fire alarm company came for testing. I was helping Dale access the empty units when he unlocked 4C. I remembered Adriana's face. Hold on. Dale looked at me. What? How long has this unit been empty? Couple months. Who lived here before? He shrugged. College kids. Why? Before them? No idea. Mrs. Landry was walking down the hall with groceries. She heard us. 4C? Yeah. She smiled. That apartment has had terrible wallpaper since before you were born. Then she looked at me more closely. Why? Adriana wouldn't go inside. Mrs. Landry stopped smiling. Adriana Vega? Yes. The grocery bag lowered. You mean Anna Vega's girl? I had no idea who Anna Vega was. Mrs. Landry looked at apartment 4C. Oh. What? She lived there. I turned toward the door. When? Late 90s. Maybe early 2000s. Little dark-haired girl. Always carrying library books. My stomach tightened. Mrs. Landry continued. Her mother worked nights at Harborview. They were here a few years. What happened? The old woman's expression changed. The building sold. That was all she said at first. Then, the new owner cleared half the tenants. I looked at 4C again. Adriana hadn't bought a random building because I threatened to leave Seattle. She had bought the building she had once been forced to leave herself. And she had never told me. I went to Adriana's condo Sunday evening. Not her office. Not Juniper. Her home. That was new territory. She lived in a glass tower overlooking Lake Union. I expected it to look expensive. It did. What I did not expect was how little it looked lived in. 1 sofa. 1 dining table. 2 framed photographs. No shelves full of objects. No piles of books. No random souvenirs from years of living somewhere. Everything could have been packed in an afternoon. Adriana opened the door. You've never come here before. I know. How did you get my address? Dale gave it to me. Her expression cooled. I will be discussing privacy with Dale. Don't. I absolutely will. 4C. Everything in her face stopped. I had my answer before she spoke. Mrs. Landry remembered you. Adriana stepped aside. I entered. She closed the door behind me. For once, she didn't ask whether I wanted coffee. She walked to the window. My mother called it temporary. What? Juniper Court. Her back stayed toward me. We moved there when I was 8. She said it was temporary until she saved enough for someplace better. I looked around the nearly empty condo. Adriana continued. She said that about everything. Temporary apartment. Temporary night shift. Temporary school after we changed districts. Then the building sold. Yes. Her voice had become flat. Not cold. Carefully flat. The new owner didn't renew our lease. My mother had 6 weeks to find somewhere else. How old were you? 13. Where'd you go? A motel near SeaTac for 3 months. Then another apartment. Now her habits made sense. Why she hated the word temporary. Why she aligned objects. Why she bought instead of rented whenever she could. Why the woman who controlled a large company kept almost nothing in her own home that could not be carried away. You never told me. I never tell anyone. Why? Because it happened to millions of people. That doesn't make it unimportant. It makes it ordinary. To you? She finally turned. No. There it was. Adriana could solve a 7-figure production failure without raising her voice. But a 13-year-old version of her had never stopped waiting for the next notice under the door. I didn't know it was Juniper until after I asked your address, she said. That changed my understanding of the entire purchase. You recognized it. Immediately. And when you learned Beacon was buying it, I called the owner. How fast? 38 minutes. I laughed once, without humor. Of course you timed it. I remember times. What did you think would happen if Beacon bought it? That your lease would end. And then? You would leave. Like you did. Her face hardened. Yes. I walked closer. Adriana, I'm not 13. I know. You weren't buying a building. I know. You were trying to stop the part after the notice. I know. 3 admissions. No defense. I had expected the truth to make me less angry. Instead, it made the whole thing sadder. Because now I understood why she had done it. And I still couldn't let her do it again. You cannot spend the rest of your life buying every place somebody might leave. Her eyes flashed. I don't. You bought mine. Yes. You tried to create a job so I'd stay. I offered. You asked for my address before you asked why I wanted to go. That landed. Adriana looked away. I am very good at removing obstacles. I know. I am less good at discovering whether they are actually obstacles. That's the problem. She sat on the edge of the sofa. I took the chair across from her. For a while neither of us spoke. Then she said, I don't understand voluntary leaving. What? If something is good, I don't understand deciding to make it temporary. The fellowship isn't me rejecting Seattle. It feels like it. That's yours to deal with. Her head lifted. Harsh. Necessary. I continued. I'm not staying so you don't have to feel abandoned. I didn't ask you to. You bought an apartment building. Her mouth closed. Point made. What do you want from me? She asked. Nothing right now. She hated that answer. I could tell. I mean it. Don't create a solution. Don't open a Portland office. Don't buy something near my fellowship. I had not. I stared at her. She stopped. You considered it. Briefly. Adriana. I rejected the idea. When? Yesterday. Good. I was very unhappy about it. That's okay. She almost smiled. Then I noticed a framed photo on the console behind her. Adriana at maybe 10 years old. Her mother beside her. Behind them was Juniper Court's old brick courtyard. You kept that. One picture. Why only one? My mother hated packing. I looked around the nearly empty room again. And you? I don't keep things I couldn't leave quickly. That hurt more than I expected. The woman who could buy my whole building was still living like somebody might hand her 6 weeks' notice. I stood. I'm leaving for Portland. I know. This time don't remind yourself. She looked up. What? Say what you actually think. Adriana's control slipped. I hate it. Good. I hate that you want something that takes you away from me before you've even decided if there's an us. Better. I hate Portland. You already mentioned that. And I hate that you are making me practice losing something I do not even have yet. That was the most honest thing she had said. I sat beside her. Not touching. Just close. Maybe stop calling it losing. What should I call it? 1 year. Her expression tightened. Temporary. Yes. I hate that word. I know. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. Maybe that's exactly why you need it. We went on our first date 11 days later. Adriana chose a restaurant with a 6-week waiting list. I canceled it. She called me immediately. Why? Because you had your assistant get the reservation. That is how assistants work. That is how CEOs date badly. A beat. What do you want? Meet me at Green Lake at 6. For what? Food truck. You rejected a tasting menu for a food truck? Yes. Why? Because I want to date Adriana, not the executive office. She showed up at 5:52 in jeans and a black jacket. No driver. No assistant. No reservation. She looked suspicious of the entire concept. We bought dumplings and sat on a bench overlooking the water. This is less efficient, she said. Stop reviewing the date. I review everything. I know. 7 out of 10. You've been here 12 minutes. The bench is wet. You're impossible. She took another dumpling, then stole one from my tray. You have your own. Yours has chili oil. You said you didn't want chili oil. I changed my mind. That was Adriana. She could commit to a $30 million systems contract faster than she could admit she wanted something after rejecting it. I liked learning those small inconsistencies. They made her human. Over the next 2 weeks, we dated carefully. No secret hotel dinners. No grand gestures. A bookstore. Coffee near the locks. One disastrous attempt at miniature golf where Adriana tried to calculate bank angles and still lost. The building stayed out of it. Mostly. Tenants began emailing the independent manager with repair requests. Adriana received monthly ownership reports but stopped visiting every Saturday. That was her choice. Mine was harder. The Rose City Fellowship sent me housing options in Portland. I chose a studio apartment and a converted warehouse near the river. 6-month lease with an option for 6 more. I sent the deposit, then told Adriana. We were eating noodles in my kitchen when I said, I signed a Portland lease. Her chopsticks stopped. When? Today. How long? 6 months. Why not 12? I want flexibility. She hated that word nearly as much as temporary. Is it furnished? Partly. Safe neighborhood? Yes. Parking? I'm taking the train most days. Matt. What? You answered the practical questions before I asked. Because I know you. Her eyes dropped to her bowl. You're really going. The sentence came out differently this time. Not accusation. Recognition. Yes. 14 days. Yeah. She put her chopsticks down. What are we doing? I knew what she meant. The dating. The hand-holding. The fact that she had fallen asleep on my sofa 2 nights earlier and then pretended she had merely closed her eyes for 17 minutes. I don't know. Her face closed. That was the wrong answer for Adriana Vega. I need more than that. Do you? Yes. Why? Because I don't do undefined relationships. You bought an undefined person's apartment building. That is not helping. I pushed my bowl away. What do you want me to promise? That this continues. For a year? Yes. What does that mean? We date. Exclusively. Okay. You come back twice a month. No. The refusal surprised her. Why? Because I don't know my schedule yet. You can plan 2 weekends. I can try. I won't promise. Her jaw tightened. I can come to Portland. How often? Every other weekend. You run Gridwell. I can manage my calendar. There it is. What? You're trying to eliminate the uncertainty. I am trying to maintain a relationship. No, you're trying to pre-solve every weekend for 12 months. That is called planning. That is called turning me into a calendar obligation. Adriana stood. Not dramatically. She simply needed movement. She walked to my sink and aligned 2 clean mugs that were already aligned. I don't know how to do this without a plan. I know. That is not a compliment. It isn't an insult either. She turned. What if you like Portland more? Maybe I will. Pain flashed across her face. What if the fellowship offers you a permanent position? I don't know. What if you decide Seattle was only temporary? There it was. Not Portland. Not distance. Juniper. Her mother. 6 weeks. The motel. Everything she had never learned to trust. I stood too. I'm not promising to come back just to make you less afraid. You want me to accept that? Yes. No. That was her turn. Good. A real no. She grabbed her jacket. I didn't stop her. At the door, she turned. I can accept you going. Okay. I cannot agree to build something with you while you refuse to tell me whether you intend to return. I can't tell you something I don't know. Then I don't know how to do this. Her voice did not break. That would have been easier. She simply left. 2 days passed without a call. 3. For the first time since she bought Juniper Court, Adriana stopped trying to hold on. And I discovered I hated that almost as much as she hated uncertainty. The 4th day, Mrs. Landry knocked on my apartment door. She held an envelope. Your girlfriend is trying to sell us the building. I nearly dropped the screwdriver in my hand. She is not my girlfriend. Mrs. Landry gave me a look. Fine. You're emotionally constipated billionaire. Adriana is not a billionaire. That's the part you object to? I took the envelope. It was from Juniper Court's property manager. A proposal. Adriana was offering the tenants first opportunity to form a cooperative and purchase the building from her, not at market value, at her acquisition cost plus closing expenses. No profit. She would finance part of the purchase herself at a fixed low rate if conventional financing fell short. I read the first page again. When did this happen? Meeting tomorrow. I called Adriana. She answered after 4 rings. That alone told me something was wrong. Normally she answered me immediately. What are you doing? Working. You're selling Juniper. Yes. Why? A pause. Then, because I should not own it. Since when? Since you explained it. That was weeks ago. I needed time to determine whether selling would harm the tenants. So you created a co-op deal. The city has a technical assistance program. They can help residents form the ownership entity. Why it cost? Because I did not buy Juniper as an investment. I sat on the edge of my bed. You're going to lose money. Probably. How much? That is not relevant. That means a lot. Enough. This wasn't Adriana giving away her career. It wasn't some dramatic sacrifice where she destroyed everything she had built. It was more specific. She was giving up the thing she had bought to make herself feel safe. The exact building she had once lost. The one physical object that connected her 13-year-old fear to my future. You don't have to do this because we fought. I'm not. Then why? Because Mrs. Landry should not need to wonder whether my feelings for you affect her lease. I said nothing. Adriana continued. Theo should not have to be nice to the CEO's boyfriend to keep his apartment. Still not your boyfriend. I am painfully aware. That sounded like her. I smiled despite everything. She kept going. And you should not have to wonder whether coming back to Seattle means coming back to a home I own. That one landed hardest. She had finally found the leverage I had been unable to name. Juniper Court would always sit between us if she kept it. Stay, and I lived in her building. Leave, and she could preserve my apartment. Return, and part of me might wonder whether the path had been kept open by her money. Selling it removed all of that. You know, the co-op could vote to raise my rent. Yes. They could give my unit to somebody else when my lease ends. Yes. You're okay with that? No. I laughed. Adriana. I am trying to become okay with it. That was more honest. Come to the meeting tomorrow, she said. Do you want me there? Yes. Why? Because I need to explain something to the tenants, and I would prefer if you heard it too. The courtyard was full by 6 the next evening. A housing cooperative advisor explained financing, voting rights, reserves, maintenance, and the fact that nobody was required to participate. Then Adriana stood. No notes. That was unusual. She always had notes. Juniper Court was my home once, she said. Mrs. Landry nodded. Most tenants looked surprised. Adriana told them the short version. She had lived in 4C. The building sold. Her mother lost the lease. They left. I purchased Juniper because I believed I was preventing that from happening again. She glanced at me. And because I believed ownership could keep someone important to me from leaving. Nobody laughed. Even Theo knew better. I was wrong about the second part. Her hand stayed at her sides. I cannot protect people by making their choices for them. Then she explained the sale terms. The building would belong to the cooperative if tenants approved and financing closed. Adriana would retain no management authority. No special unit. No veto. Mrs. Landry raised her hand. Why not keep one apartment? Adriana's eyes found mine. Because then I would be waiting for someone. My chest tightened. She looked back at the tenants. I'm trying to learn not to do that with real estate. Theo muttered, that's actually kind of romantic. Everyone heard him. Adriana gave him a look. He lifted both hands. After the meeting, I caught her beside the gate. You're really doing it? Yes. Even if I don't come back. Her face changed. That is the point. There was nothing I could say to that. So I did something instead. I kissed her. Not because she had sold me a building. Because she had finally stopped trying to own the answer. She kissed me back once, hard enough to make Mrs. Landry whistle from her window. Then Adriana stepped away. No. I blinked. What? You don't get to kiss me because I made one emotionally mature decision. I laughed. That's not why. You are leaving in 9 days. I know. And we still have the same problem. She was right. She had changed. That did not automatically solve us. Dinner tomorrow? I asked. Adriana considered it. Maybe. I stared at her. She almost smiled. You hate uncertainty. Deeply. Now you're doing it to me. Growth. Then she walked away. I had created a monster. My last week in Seattle felt like living inside a countdown everybody could see. Gridwell gave me a normal farewell lunch. Adriana did not attend. That was deliberate. She knew the room would become about us if she walked in. Instead, I found a small box on my desk afterward. Inside was a compact laser measure, the same model she had used at Juniper. There was no expensive watch, no engraved plaque, just a tool. A sticky label on the side read, "For doorways you haven't met yet." No signature. It didn't need one. I carried it in my backpack. The co-op vote passed. 18 of the 22 households joined. The others could remain tenants under the cooperative. Adriana's lawyers started paperwork. She complained about every inefficient part of the process and changed none of it. 3 days before I left, she finally agreed to dinner. At my apartment. Half my kitchen was packed. Adriana stood in the doorway staring at the boxes. "You have too many. They're boxes. I dislike them." "I know. I particularly dislike labeled boxes. That is a very specific prejudice." She read one. "Kitchen, Portland." "Adriana, I am not stopping you. You're glaring at cardboard. I am allowed private emotions." I handed her a roll of tape. "Help me." Her expression suggested I had asked the Queen of England to clean a gutter. Then she took the tape. We packed for 2 hours. It was the first time Adriana had ever helped someone leave on purpose. I knew what it cost her. She wrapped glasses in newspaper. I packed books. She complained that I had failed to organize boxes by destination room. I reminded her my new apartment had 2 rooms. At 9, we sat on the floor eating pizza. Same bare room I had expected to leave before she bought the building. "Tell me something," she said. "What? Do you want to come back?" I thought carefully. "Seattle?" "Yes." "I don't know." Her shoulders tightened. I continued before she could retreat. "But I want you in whatever happens next." She looked at me. "That is annoyingly vague." "It's also true." "What does it mean?" "It means I don't want to promise you a return date." Her mouth pressed into a line. "But I do want to try this." "This?" "You." "Me." "Train schedules. Bad phone calls. Missed weekends. Whatever it actually looks like instead of whatever plan makes us least scared." Adriana studied the pizza box. "Exclusive?" I smiled. "Yes." "Regular communication?" "Yes." "Minimum frequency?" "No." "Matt, we're not drafting a service agreement. Some structure is healthy." "Fine. We don't disappear when we're upset." She considered that. "Agreed. We say when work is bad instead of pretending we're too busy." "Agreed. We do not purchase residential property as a conflict resolution strategy." Her eyes narrowed. "That rule feels targeted." "It is." "Fine." I held out my hand. Adriana looked at it, then ignored it and moved closer. "You are missing one rule." "What?" "If either of us changes our mind, we say it." That one surprised me. It was the opposite of guarantees. It was permission for reality to change. I nodded. "Agreed." She kissed me slowly. No audience. No building purchase. No giant declaration. Just a woman who hated temporary things choosing something that came without a warranty. The next morning, she drove me to King Street Station. Not her driver. Adriana. My suitcase barely fit in her trunk because she owned a car designed for executives who never move themselves. "This vehicle is stupid," I told her. "It has excellent safety ratings. It can fit either one CEO or one medium suitcase." You chose the suitcase. At the platform, the train waited beneath a gray Seattle sky. Adriana stood beside me. She had not cried. I had not expected her to. Then the boarding call came. Her hand tightened around mine. "Text me when you arrive." "I will. And when you see the apartment." "Okay. And check the lock." "Adriana, I am being reasonable." "Borderline." I picked up my bag. She released my hand. That was the moment. No grabbing my coat. No last-second attempt to stop me. No surprise ticket in her pocket. She let go. I stepped onto the train. Then turned. Adriana was still there. I leaned out just enough to say, "Next weekend." Her eyebrows rose. "What?" "I'm free Saturday." Something bright moved across her face. "Are you inviting me?" "Yes." "To Portland?" "Yes." She folded her arms. "I'll consider it." "You already checked train times." "Last night." I laughed. The doors closed. For the first time in her life, somebody she loved was leaving. And she knew exactly when she would see him again without having to own the place he was coming back to. Portland changed me faster than I expected. The fellowship wasn't glamorous. My first project was a 70-year-old apartment complex where 3 residents had stopped using the laundry room because the ramp was too steep. I spent days measuring door pressure, counters, bathroom turns, and elevator timing. I loved it. Not every minute. Some days were bureaucratic and slow. Some contractors treated accessibility as a checklist instead of a person's life. But I was doing the work I had wanted. Adriana came down the second weekend. Not the first. I later discovered she had nearly booked Friday evening, then deliberately waited because she didn't want our new arrangement to become another problem she solved instantly. That might have been more impressive than the building. She hated my studio. The kitchen is 6 feet from your bed. It's a studio. The bathroom fan sounds unsafe. It's loud. The windows leak air. Adriana, I am observing. You are landlord hunting. I am not buying this building. Good. I checked. I stared at her. She had the decency to look slightly guilty. We learned long distance badly. Then better. One weekend I canceled because a project ran late. She was furious. Not because I canceled. Because I waited 6 hours to tell her. We argued. The next time, I called immediately. Another weekend she missed our train because Gridwell had a customer crisis. Instead of chartering something ridiculous, she called me from the station and said, I cannot come. I heard how much she hated the sentence. Okay. I can come tomorrow morning. If you want. I do. She arrived Saturday at noon. That was enough. Juniper Court's cooperative purchase closed 7 weeks after I moved. Mrs. Landry sent me a photograph of 18 tenants holding keys in the courtyard. Adriana was not in the picture. By choice. She had signed the final documents that morning and left before the celebration. I called her. You could have stayed. It was their day. You bought the building. They bought it from me. You lost money. Yes. How much? No. Adriana. No. I laughed. Some boundaries remained healthy. 6 months passed. My Portland lease came up for renewal. The fellowship offered me another 6 months. I said yes. That conversation with Adriana was difficult. Not explosive. Difficult. She asked whether I was happy. I said yes. She asked whether 6 more months mattered to my work. I said yes. Then she said, okay. That was all. I almost didn't trust it. You're not going to fight? I want you back. I know. I also want you to finish something you chose before we became us. That sentence stayed with me for days. At the end of the year, Rose City offered me a permanent position. Good salary. Meaningful work. A path to lead retrofit design. At the same time, Gridwell created a new community building division. Not for me. Adriana had approved it after several municipal clients asked for lower-cost accessibility retrofits. The role leading it was posted publicly. No promise. No private offer. I applied. Interviewed with 4 people who were not Adriana. And got the job. Not because I had to return. Because the year away had taught me exactly what kind of work I wanted to bring back. I told Adriana on a Thursday. She was in Seattle. I was in Portland. So, I said over video, I'm coming home. She went completely still. I immediately corrected myself. Seattle. I mean Seattle. No. What? You said home. Don't make this weird. It is already extremely important. Adriana. She smiled. Not the tiny professional almost smile. A real one. When? 3 weeks. What apartment? I haven't decided. Her face became suspiciously neutral. No. I pointed at the screen. Whatever you are thinking, no. I am not thinking anything. You own no available buildings. That is correct. You will not buy one. I agreed to this rule. You will not call brokers. I have not. Adriana. She raised both hands. I have learned. 3 weeks later, I got off the train at King Street Station. Adriana was waiting in the same place where she had let me go 12 months earlier. No dramatic sign. No driver. No ring box. Just her. She walked toward me, took my suitcase handle, and kissed me before I could complain that I was capable of carrying it. Welcome back. Thanks. Your temporary housing situation concerns me. I laughed. I knew this was coming. I have a solution. Absolutely not. She pulled an envelope from her coat. I stared at it. What did you buy? Nothing. What is that? A lease. That got my attention. She handed it to me. It was for her condo. Not ownership papers. Not a transfer. A standard cohabitation agreement drafted by an attorney with spaces for both of us to sign. I read the first page. You want me to move in? Yes. Adriana, keep reading. So I did. Either person could leave with 30 days' notice. Shared costs were listed clearly. No ownership interest. No financial penalty for moving out. No ridiculous protection mechanism. At the bottom of the first page was a handwritten addition. Nothing in this agreement is permanent unless we keep choosing it. I looked up. Adriana had gone nervous. Actually nervous. You wrote that? Yes. You hate temporary. I still do. This lease can end. Yes. You're okay with that? No. I laughed. She caught my jacket. But I am okay with not owning the ending. There it was. Not a multi-million-dollar purchase. Not a building. Not a promise that nobody would ever leave. A lease. Something that could expire. Something two people could renew because they wanted to. I took the pen from the envelope. Adriana watched me sign. Then I handed it to her. She signed beneath my name. 30 days notice? I asked. Legally. And emotionally? Her fingers closed around mine. Don't be an idiot. I smiled. Fair. She picked up my suitcase. I took it back. Then we walked out of the station together. A year earlier, Adriana Vega had bought 22 apartments because she couldn't stand the idea of me leaving one. This time, all she offered me was half of hers. And because she finally understood the difference between keeping me and being chosen, I went home with her. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.